Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Eric Fields, the psychologist turned weight loss coach. So, a lot of times when we want to start a weight loss plan and we're thinking about how to create one and where we need to begin, it feels very overwhelming and we just can't figure out where to start. And essentially, this experience is called analysis paralysis, where you are paralyzed and unable to take any action because you're overthinking it. And this is actually a defense mechanism because by overcomplicating this and making this seem so overwhelming and so much more so than it really needs to be, we actually avoid having to do it. But for a lot of us, it's not just a defense mechanism, it's also that we really need some little push or some direction to get started. And so that is what I'm hoping to accomplish today. I'm hoping to give you a step-by-step plan that if you follow, it will culminate in a really well thought out and well planned weight loss plan. The thing that I really want to emphasize here is that any step that you take, no matter how small, is progress. So I've written out 7 steps that I think will get you started on a really successful weight loss journey. I definitely don't intend for you to do all 7 of these within the first day, 2 days, or even week. As long as you start on step 1 this week, you have now gone from inaction to action. As soon as you do step 1, you have now taken action. And that is a much greater emotional distance than going from step 1 to 2 or 2 to 3 or 3 to 4. Step 0 to 1 is huge. It's the difference between doing and not doing, right? So if you do one of these steps, I want you to give yourself a big pat on the back because that is huge. Now, these go in chronological order, but they don't have to. Certainly, you could start out doing an exercise plan before a food plan, or you could do the food journal after you determine what your daily caloric needs are. It doesn't really matter, but I would really say that step 1 really should be step 1. It's the most important. Okay? All right. So, step 1, pick one day and time that you're going to weigh yourself and then do it. This is huge. I mentioned this a while ago, but I started off as a psychologist, as a general practitioner, working with people with all different kinds of struggles. And then I specialized with people with eating disorders, and then eventually specialized with people with addiction. And when I was working with people with eating disorders, I noticed a very common fear with all of them, and that was a scale phobia. And guess what? People like us who've had significant long-standing weight loss challenges, we have it too. We don't really want to know what our weight is. And if somebody asks us about it, we tend to underestimate it. So let's get real and let's just accept whatever it is, because until you accept that this is the way I'm at right now, you're never going to be able to move forward. This is a huge step. And you know what? It's the step that so many of us avoid. And it's a step that keeps so many of us from starting a weight loss plan, because we know if we start a weight loss plan, we're going to have to measure our results. And we know that we're going to have to get a baseline in terms of what we weigh right now. And many of us don't want to know that. Some of us know exactly how much we weigh and do the opposite, which is, obsessive compulsive weigh-ins, which also happened a lot with the eating disorder patients that I worked with. I had a number of them who would do that, the other extreme. Well, I don't want you to do either extreme. I definitely don't want you to avoid the scale, but I don't want you weighing yourself every day either. There's lots of water weight fluctuations, and your body weight fluctuates from day to day. It's not going to be an accurate reading. The best way to weigh yourself, honestly, is once a week, the same day, the same time. Keep it consistent. Okay. The second thing that you don't have to do these next steps in this order, but the second thing that I like to do when I start a weight loss plan, I've been in a maintenance plan for a long time, so I haven't had to do this in a long while. But whenever I did need to lose a little extra weight, I had to lose a little extra weight. I think I mentioned for Thanksgiving, around Thanksgiving time last year. So I like to start a food journal for just 1 week, recording exactly what I'm eating each day for a week and trying to estimate about how many calories I'm taking in each day, right? So I'm counting the I eat. There are many online calculators that make it very easy to do this now. You can say like, I had a grilled chicken sandwich with some honey mustard and some lettuce and this and that. And they can give you some approximate values in terms of, how many calories are probably going to be in that meal. The thing is, the more accurate you are, the better this plan is going to be, right? So it's a bit laborious having to, record every single thing we eat for a given week. And so if this sounds like too much for you, then just pick a day that you think is representative. It's a typical day of how you eat. And then just do that one day. And so that can give you a pretty good estimate in and by itself. So folks, really, we're talking about even if you're super resistant to doing this task, we're talking about one day. Just do it for a day. Now, if you do it for a day versus an entire week, the information is probably not going to be as accurate. So what I would do is I would overestimate the amount of calories. Like, let's say at the end of the day, you tally up the calories and you say, it's about 2,500. Well, add a good 500 calories to that, because we tend to be underreporters of how much we consume, especially in terms of calories. And here's another thing. This is very interesting. The research shows us that whenever we're self-monitoring a behavior that we want to change, we tend to do it less, or do it, in less of a degree. So if overeating is a behavior that we want to reduce and we just start monitoring our eating, we're going to tend to naturally not eat as much that day. So for that reason, and especially if you're just going to record what you eat for the one day, you definitely want to overestimate calories. Add a good 500 to whatever number you come up with. Okay, now the next thing, step 3, would be to go online and find a calorie counter or a calorie calculator, or use the one that I have here from the world-renowned Mayo Clinic to determine your daily caloric needs. Basically, that means how many calories you need to maintain your current weight. Okay, so let's say this calorie counter says to maintain your current weight, you need about 3,000 calories a day. okay? That's just to maintain. So if you estimate from your food journal exercise that on average you're eating 3,500 calories a day, that's 500 more than your maintenance level, right? The maintenance level is what it was determined from this calorie calculator. It's how many calories you need to maintain whatever weight you are right now. So if your maintenance level is 3,000, you're eating 3,500 calories a day, then you're overeating for your current weight, which means, guess what? You're actually going to be gaining weight over time. Now, if those two numbers are pretty close, like within a couple hundred calories, that means that your pattern of eating is maintaining your current weight. And a few of you may be pleasantly surprised that you may actually be eating less than your caloric needs for your current weight. And if that's the case, you should start to see weight loss. And if you don't, then that means either the number you got from the calorie calculator is off. Um, it's pretty accurate. So I think the only thing that you need to pay more attention to is whatever you check off in terms of your activity level. There's a place in the calculator that asks you like how active you are. So you may have overestimated that, but more likely it's probably because you did not accurately measure how many calories you eat on average. Okay, so that's going to give you a good idea of where you're at, right? These first three steps are going to give you a really good idea of where you're at in terms of your weight, in terms of how many calories you need just to stay at that weight. And then are you in a weight gaining, weight maintaining, or weight loss phase right now? Okay. If you are generally in a maintenance phase, then all we have to do is look at a few places during the day, and sometimes just one place where we can cut back calories. If you're in a weight gaining phase, you're going to have to be a little bit more ambitious and try to find a couple areas you can really rein back the eating and what you're eating, okay? So listen, there is no right way to do this. Basically, you just want to try to find ways where you can cut back on your calories. And that doesn't mean cutting back on your portions necessarily, because if your portion size tends to be this big and it's a lot of fried, fatty, unhealthy food, and then you change it or sub it out for a healthier version of that size, the calories are going to be a heck of a lot less. Okay? But of course, portion size is another easy thing to kind of decrease so that you can be more assured that you're taking in less calories. Okay? So for step 4, look at your food journal. Think about what you typically eat each day. See what you ate for that day that you journalized your food, or the week if you did the extended version. And then take just brainstorm and think about, reflect rather, about what you typically eat on a given day. Like what kinds of things are your go-to foods? Are there healthier versions of those foods? If you're using condiments a lot, are there healthier versions of the condiments? Can you reduce the portion size of some of these meals? If it's really one problematic area, which is like a big snack after dinner, can we cut that out? Because that might be it right there. Or if you really need that snack after dinner, can you do a healthier version of that snack? Or are you eating out too often, and you simply need to decrease the amount of times that you go out to eat at restaurants, especially fast food restaurants, or even just grab and go kind of meals, right? If your heaviest meal is dinner, and you know as the day goes on, our metabolism starts to slow down more and more, which means whatever we're eating later and later in the day tends to be stored more as fat. If your heaviest meal, your biggest meal of the day is dinner, can you switch that up? Can you make breakfast your biggest meal? Try to come up with some creative ideas of reining back some of these calories, reining in some of these calories. This is something I'm especially helpful with for my clients because as a psychologist, we're basically professional problem solvers. And I'm really good at being able to do like an investigation and figure out where the extra calories are coming from or why this person isn't losing weight, and then how to make a plan that doesn't make them feel miserable, that doesn't, is not so overwhelming where it's such a life-changing kind of plan, but it's, simple little tweaks here and there. And suddenly they go from being in a maintenance phase to a weight loss phase. If you're in a maintenance phase and you're maintaining the same weight for a couple of years, you know what? That's actually not a bad thing because you're not gaining weight, which is great, and you've learned to control your weight to some degree. So now all we have to do is just take away a few places here and there where there are some unneeded calories, and voila, you can easily be put into a weight loss phase. Okay, now for accountability, and also from what I talked about in a prior video, that, don't wing it, have a plan. It makes it so much easier when you go food shopping and when you wake up in the morning to know basically what you're eating for the day. So make a food plan and say, like, okay, for the next at least 5 of the 7 days, at least during the week, try to figure out what you're going to be eating for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Are these meals ones that you need to prepare? Are some of them ones that you need to prepare? Do you need to prepare them beforehand? What is the plan? Where are you going to be eating? What are you going to be eating? And when are you going to be eating? Okay, write it out for the week. And once you write out that plan, there's your food list. In addition to all the other stuff that you need to buy for your family, but there's your food list already created. Okay. Now, step 6. Now for the exercise, the other side of the equation. Calories in, calories out, right? I want you to brainstorm and write down a variety of exercises that are practical, meaning like you can do them. Skiing, if you live in Florida, not so practical, right? Surfing, if it's winter, not so practical. So write down a variety of exercises that are practical to do, meaning you could do them, they are available to you, and that you are physically capable of doing, okay? Physically, you can actually do this exercise without hurting yourself, et cetera, et cetera. And always get a doctor's clearance before you start any exercise program, just to be on the safe side. And I want you to write out as many exercises as you can that are practical and that you are physically capable of doing, no matter how minimal they might seem to you. You might write down walking and then be like, oh, walking, what am I going to burn with that? Listen, any step you take and any progress, no matter how small, is progress. Walking could eventually turn into power walking, which could eventually turn into slow jogging, which could eventually turn into jogging, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Riding on a recumbent stationary bike could turn into spin class, could turn into outdoor competitive biking. Start off somewhere. That's the name of the game. Okay. Same thing with like weightlifting. getting those little tiny 1 to 2 pound plastic dumbbells and doing a couple arm curls with them could turn into heavier dumbbells, could turn into a gym membership where you're working out with all the fancy machines with the bells and whistles. Don't exclude any exercises just because you think like they won't do anything. They will do something because any exercise will burn calories. That's number one. And number two, any exercise that you start doing can turn into more rigorous exercise down the line. Okay? After you do step 6, I want you to pick one or a couple or a few of these exercises and plan out your week in terms of what exercises you're going to do on what days and for how long. The more specific you are, the better. And then you can put these two together. Here's my eating plan for the week, and here's my exercise plan for the week. Now, after a week, you're going to go back to step 1 and you're going to weigh yourself and you're going to see if it worked. If it worked, awesome, keep doing it. And if you want to do even better, improve your results, try to find another couple small changes you can make with your eating, or a couple small positive changes you can make with your exercising, either doing it more days, a little bit longer, a little bit more intensely, whatever. Any progress is progress, okay? If you get on that weight scale and you're the same weight, you didn't lose any weight, or you've been gained a little, I don't want you to fret. You didn't fail. You're doing it. You just need to tweak it, and eventually you will be in a weight loss phase. All that means to you, that feedback, simply is that you just need to make a few more tweaks. You didn't fail. And this is the most important principle that I want you guys to know from this video. That is not failing. The fact that you came up with a plan and you stuck with it for the week means you are succeeding, and you are eventually going to see that success in the number on that scale eventually if you keep making little tweaks here and there. Or sometimes you just need to give it a little bit more time. Now, for those of you who came up with a plan but you didn't follow it, you still didn't fail because you at least came up with a plan. Now the trick is to figure out why you didn't follow it, but at least you know what the issue is. The issue is not the plan. It probably would have worked, but you didn't follow it. Why? And then that's something to address. In psychology, there are two, or psychotherapy, I should say, when I'm working with patients or clients, there are 2 phases of therapy, but they're really not distinct phases. They really work in tandem. The assessment phase and the intervention phase. And the assessment phase is measuring or trying to identify and understand the problem. That's all assessment, okay? And then the intervention phase is the solution. It's creating a solution once we've identified the problem. But here's the thing that's very interesting. An assessment can be an intervention, and an intervention can be an assessment, okay? So this 7-step plan here is an intervention. It's a way of helping you solve your weight loss problem. But it can also be an assessment in the sense that if it works, it tells you information. It worked, great, you know what works. But if it doesn't work, it also gives you information. This isn't enough. I need to tweak some areas, or maybe I wasn't as accurate in my calorie calculations or estimations. Or I wasn't able to follow the plan, and that tells me some information. So the problem is more mental then. Either way, if you just start going through these steps, you have already started on your weight loss journey. I don't care if you don't lose any weight yet. This is huge because it will eventually culminate in weight loss if you stick with it. all you have to do is revise it. When you wrote a paper for English class, right? Or some kind of thesis or even a dissertation like I had to do, a lot of times you got it back and it needed to be revised and edited. And so we did that and it got better and better and better. And so sometimes you start off with a weight loss plan and it just needs to be revised and edited. And then it will be better and better and better. And it will eventually lead to you losing weight. So just start, folks. Any step you take, no matter how small, is progress. Starting off with this first step, if you do this first step this week, you started your weight loss journey. You are making progress. This is Dr. Fields. I'll have more to say about this at another time. And as always, I wish all of you the best success on your weight loss journeys.